Well, what's going on, family? It's your main man, Joe Dupree in the building. Hopefully, you are having a great beginning to your new year. It is Community Conversations, and I wouldn't be in the house if I didn't have my brother from another mother. I think he went to go get another hat. Let me put him in the scene.
Nah.
No, he didn't. No, he
Nope.
didn't. No, he didn't.
Nope.
It's my brother Fatim, WBLS New York in the building. Fatim in the black socks, not the white socks, in the black socks attire.
Yeah. Shout out to my
Yeah.
man, my back then manager Randall, and my teammates. Man, this is championship. We three-peat. This is a championship jacket, brother. In the back, it's championship stuff,
That's what
But
I'm talking about.
just to switch it up, But when we talking football, we ain't talking black and gold. We talking blue and white, baby. We talking blue and white.
It's them Cowboys.
That's called
It's
Cooper,
them,
baby.
it's them Cowboys.
Next year,
Well,
I'll
look,
get
family.
Deion Sanders jersey. But the
Tell them,
Steelers, they back their way in there. I give them a,
let me represent. Let me represent. There it is. The terrible, the original terrible towel. We in the building. We in the building. I'll be honest with you. I'm a big time Steelers fan. I'm a realist though, and for us to beat Kansas City, I don't see that happening. Us going to KC, to Arrowhead, and beating them, I don't see that happening. Now, on the other hand, I see the rebirth of the rivalry between the Dallas Cowboys and the 49ers. And that's going to be a serious game right there when the Cowboys and the 49ers square off to see who moves forward and trying to make Super Bowl hopes happen and dreams and aspirations. Did you see the game last night, Alabama and Georgia?
Yeah, I saw it. For me, I'm not. I mean, I know about Georgia. I know about Alabama, and what can I say? It was a good game up to the fourth quarter, and then the Bulldogs pulled away, and Georgia hasn't won that in what? How many decades? They haven't won
41 years. In 41 years, they have not won a championship. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So kudos to them. I didn't really have a team out there, a 1-3 team, a number 1 and number 3. It's not fair to say, what I chose to pick. Well, I picked Georgia over Alabama, but then I was kind of rooting for the brother quarterback. I don't really have anything connected to those two teams. At the end of the day, I never liked the politics of Alabama back in the Jim Crow era. But so many states had to deal with Jim Crow era, so I that's not fair to Georgia or whatever. At the end of the day, Georgia was the rated number. What they were rated.
They were number 2, and Alabama was number 1.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest with you. I was rooting for Georgia was the underdogs because Alabama had beat them in the SEC championship.
Right.
So I was rooting for really the unsung heroes on Georgia's team, which is that African American defense they had, them big boys on that O line and on that D line who were just raising havoc, raising pure havoc.
Yeah, they both had a lot of brothers of color out there, and kudos to both of them at the end of the day. And I hate to say, but I just didn't have a stake in this one, but I don't want to seem like I'm not a sports guy. I think that I've seen championship games where they were blowouts. It would be the 1 and 2, and it just wasn't a good game. I mean, this came down to when I turned it on, because I was watching a couple of other things, it was like 13-12. So it was a good game. And then it went up, 5 points. They tried to get that conversion. They couldn't get that.
Right.
And then it exploded, in the fourth quarter. and the Bulldogs came, and I think, the folks at Georgia, of course, were happy, but Alabama don't have anything to hang their head. An interesting story on the quarterback with Georgia. You got to realize this quarterback was there and left, went to another college, and then came back. So knowing his history, but also know the history of the Alabama quarterback, and some of these guys are going to Pro Bowl, and I give them kudos. But kudos to a great game last night to both teams and to both fans and both universities. And I hope that we can continue to push for these athletes that bring in so much money to the universities and the coaches and the staff that get paid top dollar, that a lot of these athletes, collegiate athletes, not only in collegiate football, but collegiate basketball and everywhere, that they can get their fair share of money and equity when it comes down to gender, when it comes down to female.
And I agree with that. And a lot of people are talking about the NILs, and I want to take time out and let people know that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk a little sports. We're going to talk about the virus. I want to talk about, and this is probably tell a friend to tell a friend, share this with a friend. We're going to talk about OnlyFans pages tonight, and there's a reason behind that. So just follow me. And at the end of the show, we're going to close out with, of course, a giant in the industry, a very good friend of Brother Fatim's. Brother James Mtume has transitioned on to the other side, and we're going to definitely have some great words of conversation from his good friend, Brother Fatim Muhammad, about, we're going to close out actually giving him his honor, his due, and that's about it. So let's get back with the sports thing. Today, I had an interesting conversation. I want to see how you feel about this, Brother Fatim, since you brought it up about the fair share. I think that college football right now is a little bit fickle for a couple of reasons. First of all, the transfer portal and the NILs. And I believe when people start beating folks at their own game, they're going to change the game. So I think people need to be prepared for some changes to come with the NILs and with the transfer portal. Because when you got people like Deion Sanders, who is Coach Deion Sanders at Jackson State University, and he's pulling some of the top recruits in the nation, there are some what they call the Big Five or the major conferences. They're not happy seeing these number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 guys going to HBCUs. Be exact, some have even made the statement, you'll never make it like you would make it here. I disagree with that. I believe if you're good no matter where you go. I believe if you're going to make it from the pros, from an Alabama, a Georgia, LSU, Michigan, a UCLA, a USC, you can go pro, and it's been proven. You can go pro from a Grambling State, Doug Williams, one name I'm throwing out there. You can go pro from a South Carolina State. You could, there are, if you right now list the names of the big names who have left black colleges and went pros, those names are huge. They're not just old names, they're new names. From Aeneas Williams, Mel Blount, there are names out there that graduated from all black colleges that went pro and did big things, not only in football. Ricky Weeks, you got Ricky Weeks in the modern age. You got the Hank Aaron's, you got the Lou Brocks. Come on, family. So, I think that there needs to be change. Number one, I believe that if you are a freshman or a sophomore, you shouldn't be able to go into the transfer portal. You shouldn't be able to go into the transfer portal until your junior year. Now, that's my opinion. Here comes the next one that I think with the NILs. I think that the NILs should stay the way they are, but they should be contingent upon you graduating. I think that should be the.
What's the NIL?
That's the name and likeness. Where athletes get paid like USC made all that money off of Reggie Bush's jersey. Reggie Bush didn't make a dime. And at the time he couldn't make a dime because it was illegal for athletes to make money because these are collegiate amateur athletes. But if some of them, like right now, in many schools, there are people getting millions of dollars right now because now it is legal for them to get money, and it's not illegal for folks to get them to sign on a deal or whatever. And I think that's all well and fine. I think they should get a portion of that money up front, but the completion of whatever those monies are, be it a 1 million, 2 million, 30 million. I think somebody got like a $30 million college deal with some organization, and I've got to Google this and look it up. But I think it should be contingent upon them graduating, them getting all the money. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's interesting. You have your opinion. It's interesting. Me and Joe may disagree on this one. I think that if the school is able to, I believe that the person should be able to make money off of their name. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. No way in hell that a school should be able to make all that kind of money off of a collegiate athlete, and he or she does not get a dime. I do not agree with that. I don't agree with that. You have to graduate to go pro. Some ball players have.
I didn't say that, Fatim. I didn't say that.
You're saying that they have to. What do you mean graduate and get the money?
When I'm saying if they make one of the things I would hate to see anybody do is get a NIL. The ultimate game. The reason you go to college is to graduate from college. You don't, that to me is the end game of college. The end game of college is to get a degree and prepare yourself what's next in life. The sad thing is we can look at Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is one of my examples of how a college or a system will exploit you, and in the end, you don't have anything.
But what about see that would be okay to a degree, Joe. The problem I have is the problem what the NBA has done.
Okay, talk to me.
And the NBA has now said you cannot go from high school into the NBA. I think that's bull crap.
Wow.
I'm just gonna say what it is. I think it's bullshit. I'm sorry to say it like that, but I think it is. And that at the end of the day, you got kids that are Kobe Bryant or LeBron James talent that could jump to the NBA without going to collegiate ball. A lot of them now going to college, not to graduate, but to follow in the footsteps to get into the NBA. So if you gotta say you go into college to graduate, it is nice to go to college and finish college, but you may not graduate. You may do what Shaquille O'Neal and so many other ball players have done, went pro from college, did not get your undergraduate degree, and went back to school and got your degree.
Right.
So I have an issue with that. I'm tired of us being used as cattle.
Right.
That's the problem. So I know what college is supposed to do and get for us, and what happens beyond your football. You get out there and you get hurt, and then you don't have nothing to fall back on. That's why you got to be smart. You have to have a good team behind you, and you got to decide how you're going to go about doing things. And I think that you can go out there and play ball and go back and get your degree. If you're playing pro ball before you get to your junior year as a college ball player, and you decide to go to NFL, on your off season, you can go back to school and get your degree. So there's a plan there. So I don't give it to the point that you have to graduate 4 years, 5 years, or whatever you have to be in college. I just think it has to be a strategy that works best for that particular athlete.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with you. Ring the bell on that one. I agree with you. I agree with you. Listen, and when we're talking about that, let's make a little transition here, because I really need to. I'm going to skip over the virus and get to this. So here in the humble city that I live in, a very unusual thing occurred. A TikTok video kind of went viral with some junior high students, and because of that TikTok video going kind of viral and there being a confusion with the video, some students are recommended for expulsion. And sadly, most of the students look like you and I, and they're good students. This isn't a bad school. This ain't one of those schools where you say this bad kids. It was a trend. Now, here's the funny thing. I've listened to the conversations, and I'm not really going to get into it because there's some things I just don't get into. At the end of the day, right's right, wrong's wrong, and I think sometimes we really need to communicate to our children certain things. That's just my humble opinion as a parent. But a person brought this up, and I'm going to go to what the person said because I don't want to misquote what the person said. But what they said sparked a debate on social media that was, to me, was a little bit humorous. But then after further review, a friend of mine called me and said, "You know, that's a very good point." So the individual, let me see, can I find the post? Uh, and the post shouldn't be that far because it had.
It's that hat too tight on your head. That's the problem.
It's the Steeler Nation, baby. It's the
Yeah,
Steeler
brother.
Nation.
Too much
It's
steel up there, brother. Too much steel, brother.
Okay, so the person said, some of you have, and I'm paraphrasing, some of you have the audacity to be upset with these children for being children and doing a TikTok thing. But okay, it says the actual school board. I'm not going to name what school board it is. It said the school board wants to suspend kids for playfully being on TikTok, but they want to keep teachers employed who have OnlyFans pages. And so that brought up the question that a friend called me today and said something that I had to really think about. How do we react to adults? Now watch, this person mixed kids and adults, and you may have your opinion because teachers are adults and we're talking children. But let's take the children out the equation because they're going to do their TikTok and their social media. But in these days and times with the pandemic, so I'm going to bring the virus back into the equation. How do we handle when folk have certain professions and the profession hasn't said you can't do XYZ, and they now start doing OnlyFans pages? Some of them may even go into some professions that we don't consider morally good professions. Like, for example, I know college students when back in my days who would work in the strip club who were going to law school. To be exact, I happen to know, and not to mention any names, I happen to know a person when, because I used to DJ in some of the DJ and work in some of the strip clubs, and I knew a person who winded up graduating law school and became an assistant district attorney who used to, while she was in college, get on the pole. So here's the question. It's just a question. But how do what happened? Your teacher had an OnlyFans page. What happened? A person in a quote unquote reputable profession, due to the pandemic and due to money not flowing away, all of a sudden did something risque, like had an OnlyFans page or got into some business that was risque, but it was legal. Now, the key word is not something illegal, something that was quote unquote morally risque, but legal. How do we deal with that? How would you deal with that if somebody came to you and said, "Man, I saw your auntie on OnlyFans"?
Shoot, my auntie on only she do whatever she want to do. I mean, she don't work for me. But this is a very see this one is very interesting. I think, and again, I don't want to say, Joe, get into more specifics. So this is very interesting. I don't have a one answer for this one. I think it comes down. Let's deal with two things. If you're going to law school, or you going to nursing school, or going to med school, that has nothing to do with you, how you to choose to work. If you want to work as a stripper, um, and that's what you choose to do, I don't see that being a problem. What I come to find out now, that what employers are doing is that when they're going out to hire people for their jobs, they are now checking social media. And if they are seeing some things that are out there that they consider risque, or something that they don't look that they want to bring higher into their company, they can use that. The problem is, what is the law on that? For instance, this has happened a long time ago. My friend said he would not give his daughter a cultural or a quote unquote Black name because he felt that stigmatized her before she got in the door. So if she was named, I'm just using a name here, or I use my name, Fatine, or Shaniqua, Shaniqua, or Fatia is my daughter's. I want to use Shaniqua, and I'm not picking on Shaniquas. I'm just using a name that you don't see too many white. It's an urban name. It's an urban name. So a lot of people felt that employers, when they saw that, they put that in a pile that they may not get to. You may not know it. They may be discriminating against it, but you will not know it. So when you go in for a job and you put down your name, my name is blank on blank, and then they not only search, like there's stipulations now that you don't supposed to look into people's credit when you're going for a job. People, especially in the South, they use your credit report in a sense of hiring you. They don't supposed to do that. Well, some states are passing laws now. So the question is, what is the rules? Because now, if you have something out there, a fan page or doing TikToks, and your name comes up and it's something that's risque, the company may use that against you. Legal or not legal, you may not know that. And they may not tell you that, so they can get sued. So you have to use your discretion. Now, what happens if you work for a company like I do? I mean, I haven't been told by my radio stations, but since I do produce for Reverend Sharpton, I am an extension of WBLS. I'm an extension of producing Reverend Sharpton shows. I work for Radio One. I just was talking to one of the top bosses there about something dealing with Mtume. And you got to realize that I am an extension of them. Because when my name goes out there, my name is associated with their product. And if my name is associated with their product, there is a line. Now, I got to know, I mean, legally, if I use profanity or whatever, you really can't you can't really fire me on that.
Under freedom of speech.
But if I go out there and I'm going out there and I'm showing my backside or doing something or I'm saying something really disrespectful to somebody, they can utilize that and bring me up on or let me go. So you got to realize how and you go about things. That's why you have to know the ethics of what you are doing. That's why sometimes you need to control your own. You understand? You need to control that.
Right, hold it. And when you work for other folks, and I've learned this through my experiences in life. When you work for other folks, first thing that needs to be uttered out your mouth is, do you have an employee handbook?
Oh, yeah, you're supposed to be given that. No, you don't have to ask for that.
Right.
But what happens if you're a consultant for them? See, if you're a consultant for them, you got a contract with them. You have a contract. What this is around to say, exactly, Brother Fatine, if you are working as a stripper to become a lawyer, etc., should not have an effect on the person's long-term goal. Although employers use that, yes, and especially in the South, they will use your credit for housing jobs. I have witnessed that, and she is correct. Which I mentioned,
ding the bell. There
you go. So that is true, and I've known this for a fact because I've struggled with credit in the past, but I know my jobs, and sometimes you may not get that apartment, or you may have to put a deposit down for your lights. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to realize what you're doing. That's why I said a lot of people control this, meaning that they don't become an employee. They become more of a consultant, or they control they own their own business, and they work there and they get that contract. So once you do your job, you're done, and they don't own own the rights to whatever you do and how you choose to do it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Unless there's something written up. Let me just give you an example. If I work for your radio station, and then I cannot work for the competitor, but that's something that is written out. That states that. You understand? I work for a Radio One station, but I also work for WBLS in New York. There's no competitors there, but both companies know of one another, that I worked for them because I was straightforward. So no one could come back and say, well, you work for this station and you didn't tell us. No, I told you I work for you, and I work for another station.
Well, let me say this. And that works perfectly fine in certain environments. One of the environments I've discovered that works very well in is West Coast, East Coast environments. Just what Rhonda was saying about down south. Down south sometimes comes with what I call the new Jim Crow. That's what I call it. It's the new Jim Crow. It's the new Jim Crow.
Extension of the old Jim Crow.
Right. It's the old. It's the new Jim Crow. And the new Jim Crow is, we still want to control you, but we've got to be careful how we control you, because this isn't the 40s, 50s, or 60s. So, the game has changed, but then they modify the game. Like you said, I sit down, I just talked to somebody today, highly educated sister, doing big things, but she seems to can't move forward because everyone in front of her don't look like her. And they keep on coming with 50 million excuses why they don't want to move her forward. She went and got the education they asked for. Now they're talking about, well, you need this much experience. It's like they changed the rules. So I call that the new Jim Crow, because ultimately what they want to do is what I call suck all your talent from you, use your talent to increase their bottom line. But at the end of the day, they don't want to put you in a position that you have earned or deserved, because they want you to be a good employee, period. And that's sad. Some folks may agree with me, some folks may not. But, that happens a great deal in the South. In the South, you'll find folks who barely can read or write managing people with college degrees. You'll find folks who, if you really go back and see how they got to where they got to, they didn't get to where they got to. They got there through the good old boy or the good old girl system, period. I mean, now I ain't trying to be ugly with nobody, and there might be somebody on here go, ooh, that's kind of ugly. But when I looked at this post that had over 370 comments about, okay, a certain school system wants to suspend students over TikTok, but keep teachers employed. So first of all, a lot of folks on the post said, let's not make the teachers the villain, because the school system and the teachers are two different entities. A school board, or a system that governs the schools, that's the board that governs the school. Teachers probably fight with school boards all the time. But once again, the question is, if you're going to hold individuals responsible for TikTok, what about these adults and some of the stuff they're doing? And then once again, I come back to, what is the policy? And let's just be real about it. This OnlyFans, social media, certain things that happen even on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, can be quite questionable.
Well, when you say questionable, let me just say this here. When I look at it, it's first of all, I'm not suspending no one, or we got to be specific about what we're talking about suspending a student. If it's something that's risque, it's different. See, social media is just another way of communicating nowadays.
Come on.
So it's like when you get out of school, you're in the playground, you're walking home, you understand, you're in the neighborhood. If you're bullying someone and now you're bullying someone on social media, it's the same thing. Right. If you're bullying someone, you have to deal with it as you would deal with bullying in school, in the playground, whatever. You deal with it like that. You don't come out and say, I'm going to suspend somebody because of TikTok, unless there is something, because bullying causes a major problem. We have seen kids kill themselves, commit suicide because of bullying and on TikTok or social media. That has to be handled in the same way as if bullying it was done in the presence of other folks. That's how it has to be dealt with. But you can't come out here and say, well, I'm going to hold you. Remember, there's a standard for students,
right,
across the board. Okay. And then there's a standard for teachers. You understand? But that is something that there's a union that deals with that for the teachers. And then there's parents and a school board that have to come back to deal with that with the students. The problem is that a lot of school boards, the parents don't have any power. So the school boards that are limited with parents on it make up these decisions without parents' consent. That's my problem. The parents have to have more say-so in these school boards and their decisions. Correct. On their children, because they make up these decisions. For instance, Joe, and I'm gonna say this, and anybody want to challenge me, come on and let's do it. These schools that say zero tolerance, I understand what you're saying. My kid's school had zero tolerance. This kid, older than my youngest daughter, banged her head up against a wall. I'm on the PTA, I'm on school leadership, and I'm known in the community. Had a meeting with the parent. Parent wanted to say to me in front of authorities in the school, well, I'll talk to my daughter, but I can't control my daughter when she's not here. I said, okay. I said, and now maybe I'm wrong, Joe. I said, my daughter has an older sister. Next time that happened, or I told my daughter, you go get your older sister. Right. Okay. Right. I told her to go get her older sister. You want to do now? See, now, am I wrong? Hey, I tell you this, the principal
and Fatim, when it comes to family, I'm fully with you. The reason I brought this up is, and I thought about something because we really need to talk about this. Okay. Also, in the humble city I live in, a while back, at a private school, we had a young man who put antifreeze in people's Gatorade because he was upset with them.
Oh no!
Now watch this though. When you look at the situation with this TikTok video, I think it was a TikTok trend. I haven't got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed with this situation at this middle school, but at this high school, there was an individual who tried to poison other individuals with their energy drinks because he was upset about something. To me, that's attempted murder. Now, that's just to me.
That's charges. Charges.
Now, I haven't heard what happened or how this was all rectified, because once again, you got private school, you got charter schools here in Louisiana, and you got public schools. And I think you have the same thing in New York. I think you got private, public, and charter. And different schools have different rules and regulations. But to me, right is right, and right don't wrong nobody, and wrong is wrong. So the level of punishment that is issued out should equal to the crime. Our good friend that was on with us last Tuesday, and let's keep him in prayer. He had went into surgery. That is Brother Kenneth Boudreaux. He is getting a major surgery with a hip replacement. So everybody, let's keep that brother in prayer, that his recovery, that God blesses him and he recovers fully and comes back to being the Kenneth he was before he went into surgery, just better. But he had a great show about this situation because it's a local issue. But it just brought to me because I had a friend call me from out of state going, I wonder how I would feel if somebody called me and told me, man, I saw your sister on OnlyFans. Or I said, yeah. Or, he said, or let's say that you didn't know. He said, for example, he had somebody that said to him today, if I knew that OnlyFans was doing as much money as this person's telling me, which he said, I don't know if the person's telling me the truth. He said, you can take pictures of my feet all day.
Yeah, you gotta explain to what people OnlyFans. Everybody don't know what OnlyFans.
Well, okay. For those of you, OnlyFans is like a social community where it's really a social community that you can buy into, because it's not an open social community. It's a social media. It's a social media type of community that literally you have to subscribe to people. It's not like you can just go on Facebook and you might be just scrolling and you run into Fatim and Joe and you go, oh, that looks interesting. No, this is something where if you click on to a person's profile, it may make you pay to get into the profile. You may have to go through you just can't get into the profile. And
then once you get into the profile,
it might be anything. It might be some type of, it might be cosplay, people who dress up like cartoon character. Because some people, but it's all quote unquote, when you really talk to folks, about fantasies, some sexual, some not, and people get paid. You know,
and that's idea, and they have a right to do that. It's adult stuff.
Right. So that's where I had to ask the question, because I think people really need to start conversating about this, because you know what really makes me laugh is we want to talk about what's wrong in the world until what wrong in the world shows up in the pulpit or in the pews. Then we don't want to talk about it. You know, when the pastor's sleeping with everybody, we don't want to talk about that. But when so-and-so who is a known harlot or a person of the night around your community is out there doing whatever he or she is doing, you know, it's good for us to talk about him. But then when the choir okay, it's good for us to talk about people and alternative lifestyles and say, look, we don't want, you know, they had drag queen story time here, where and there was such a big stink about that. But then if you have a person of an alternative lifestyle that's in the church that everybody has accepted because they play the piano well or they sing well, you know, it's kind of like a double standard in certain places. And I just thought that we got to start having this conversation, because watch this, you know, I did a special some years ago with a young lady, and I got to remember the young lady's name because I want to give her credit. But she said, "What happened if I'm holy and horny?"
So women don't go to church, and they, what the hell? So horny stop because you go into church.
No, but I'm just saying. But watch this. So watch this.
Church women have kids.
Okay. We want to talk about men. Okay, so I've heard people have conversations about men and how low down and dirty dogs. You know, so and so's a deadbeat dad. But what about the pastor who's got 3 different families that he keeping under the wraps?
Because we put people on pedestals.
Okay.
And we're human beings. We're people. You know, and that's what I'm saying. What do we call fault? There's a lot of things that were said in these chats that I had laughed out when you were talking, because Rhonda said I would have got my sister too on that. And we need to talk about that, because see, a lot of things we did in the old school, you know, back in the old school, you know, like I go back to Happy Days, you know, a kid was talking wild to Fonzie, and Fonzie was like, I can't hear the kid, but I go get my cousin Spike. Spike can put him in check.
Right.
But let's go back to these fan pages. That's why I'm trying to tell you. A lot of these people, things are changing. Relationships are changing. How people do relationships. You know, we got into a big conversation with my other crew about poly relationships, men and women dealing with more than one individual in a relationship.
Right.
People's businesses are changing now, and that there is an audience out there that will pay for this, and people are being more creative. We are in a pandemic, and people are telling people before that we need the social distance, we need the mask, we had to shut down. Now you're telling people to come back sooner. You need to go to work in some states around this virus. A lot of people controlling their own being, and if they can make money on and they can make money and being their own boss, people are taking those opportunities because a lot of people are tired. So where is the line? It depends on what you do and how you do it. But you can't sit there, and this is interesting, depending on what you're doing. And this is where you need a lawyer on this conversation, because we put in our opinion in here. We need a lawyer. We need a lawyer for this conversation.
So we're going to come back next week. We're going to continue this next Tuesday on Community Conversation, and we're going to bring some players in. I'm going to find a few folks, if they're willing, who have OnlyFans pages, even if we have to black them out, you know, to come on and talk about, this is what I do, this is my earning potential, and this is what it is. Because watch this. I literally talked to my guy today who's from Chicago, and he laughed because he has a friend. She has a person who loves her feet, and this guy pays. He said there's nothing on her OnlyFans pages but her in different styles of shoes and her bare feet.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And no company can tell you can't do that. I can't see that. I met 2 young ladies at my sister station, Hot 97, years ago, called Cookies and Cream.
Okay.
And they were in there. I'll never forget when I walked by the booth, they had to put eventually a thing up there, the glass. But when they first did it, these girls were sitting in there topless. And the first thing I don't do I was a young adult at the time. The first thing is I didn't gawk. I found out what they was doing, and they had a business.
Right.
And what they did is they did dancing, they did this, but there was no no money exchange at their parties for sexual favors and none of that. Right. And they came on there and they was topless because that's what they did, and that was their business.
But hold on, but Fatim,
that was their
think
business.
about it. Think about how much money Howard Stern. Let's talk. Okay, so see, once again, what I call is this is a strange thing. Certain folks can do it and get away. Howard Stern literally, off of everything that people consider immoral, dirty, sexual, got rich. Period.
Yeah, because that sells. Sex sells. Risque sells. It sells, and people will pay for that. That's why people. Why do you think Sirius XM radio is as popular as it is? Because people want to hear it in its raw form. They want to hear it as is in raw form. And sometimes I would be playing Sirius XM in the car, and I got it on the hip hop station. And my kids are singing, and they know the words, and they get to that curse word. That curse word has come out over that speaker. They'll pause. I look back at it. I said, Daddy wasn't in that car. That road with a roll. Daddy, you know what I'm saying? But that's home training. See, that's what I'm saying. That's home training. Right. My parents, I didn't slip up and curse. Well, let me get outside 12 and 13. Man, I'm cursing like a sailor as a kid.
Right.
But I know when and what not to do. And that's home training because we taught respect and we taught how to conduct ourselves as young folks. You understand what I'm saying?
You know when to hold them, you know when to fold them, you know when to walk away, and you damn sure better know when to run. You know, now, Sister Rhonda said something that I really do want to address, and she's correct. She said we really need to talk because, you know, especially with certain priests, you find out all the time how there's lawsuits out there for them molesting children and all kind of stuff. And see, once again, here's what I keep saying. If you are a bad person in a honorable profession or an honorable uniform, that doesn't change that you're still a bad person. You know, bad people wear police uniforms. Bad people wear priest uniform. Bad people wear doctor uniform. There are bad people. And listen, I haven't mentioned nobody's color, nobody's creed, nobody's nationality. Bad people. Bad people are bad people. Period. Now, the sad thing is, too many times I think we're brainwashed to believe not only bad people have a certain look, but they have a certain nationality or a certain ethnic background. And I disagree with that. What sometimes amazes me how they try to sometimes talk about blue collar and white collar crime. Hold on. Crime is crime. Crime is crime.
Joe, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna do this. So I know what you mean, but you mentioned something that I'm gonna zero in on. Is everyone bad, or can we be pushed into a position to cause us to do something, or is it in us? The reason why I bring this up is I don't know. You mentioned priests. I know you meant past. I know you just mentioned priests, but I'm gonna zero in on this. First of all, that's the Catholic religion, which I don't know a lot about, but I do know that when we talk about the Catholic religion, we tend to look at priests that molest boys. So I'm wondering if the women have access to young girls, because I don't know if they don't, because I don't never hear the nuns if they have access, because I don't hear much about molestation with that.
And that might be, you know, and that's another thing. Once again, I don't want to go somewhere where I really don't have.
Well, I want to go there for a minute.
Expertise. However, let's go there. But here's what I'm saying. What I'm really wanting to say is you. I think, and I'm gonna give you back the mic because we're getting close to the end. But here's what I really want to say. I believe good people can do bad things. I believe bad people can do good things. Once again, as Flav would say, don't judge me, Judge. I ain't did nothing to nobody. We really got to get to the point to understand that we're all human, we're all flawable, even if you look in one of the holy books out there, it says that he that is free of sin, you throw the first stone. If you never did nothing wrong, pick up the first stone and throw it. If you haven't, you might need to look the man or the woman in the mirror before you start slinging mud on other folks, and understand the only difference between you and them is we know what they did. We might not know what you did.
Right. So Rhonda, you made a statement, and we could follow this conversation up later because I don't know much about it, because I've been to church with my friends who were Catholic. I've socialized with Catholic folks. I've socialized with Catholic folks that are couples. But my issue is dealing with the priests. And when I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and then if somebody wants to correct me that we are correct, I'm just gonna say it. I just don't think it's normal to be holding yourself sexually. And so many quote unquote Catholic priests have been brought up on charges, and some have been convicted or thrown out of the church or brought down into position for molesting boys. And I'm saying, why are they brought up to molest boys, or were they brought up as young kids doing these kind of sexual favors with boys, and then it grew into them as an adult, and they are supposed to hold themselves? That don't seem natural. And I think that sometimes when we go against the natural grain of things, it backfires on us. That's the only thing I was going to say, Joe. But I was going to just use that as an example that my opinion is going against things that's natural. That's number one. Number two, when you're in the church, people put you on pedestals, and people have their own issues that they are dealing with. There are some ministers that are dealing with homosexuality or bisexual, but they are held on the standard that you have to have a wife, they have to have a child. You understand? Then there's other men that have the wife, but they are dealing with multitudes of women, and at the end of the day, they can't control their self-control, and they dip and skip. That's because, you know why? Because we isolate folks. I keep saying we put them on pedestals, and everything is a microcosm of the whole world. We have challenges in this world that we're dealing with. So in the church, those challenges don't go away because you walk through a door and into a building and say hallelujah and read scripture. It doesn't work like that. So we hold people, we start to hold people to a higher standard, but like you said, Joe, we're human. And so I just say at the end of the day, we have to be more consistent and be honest and stop putting people on pedestals. And I'm going to tell you straight up, folks, stop looking at a man or a woman to lead you somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? And Black folks are great for that, because damn it, we are great for a damn good sermon. That's why when our enemy found out that we can kill the leader or kill the head and the whole body dies, because we started to become more followers instead of leaders. Right. Gotta stop that, man.
Yeah, read it for yourself. Use individuals who can begin to set you off on a journey down a road as the reference points where you can start gathering information for yourself. I tell people all the time, go back and cross-reference what you were told, because what you're being told is being told to you from a perspective. And guess what? It might not be told from you from the perspective that is actually the best perspective for you. Because understand this, certain folks there's some things you can't talk to me about unless you went through it. Period. You can talk to me about it, but it's different. It's if I was a psychoanalysis individual, but I ain't never been in them streets, it's going to be a different kind. You can study about the streets all you want to, but a person who's been out in them streets, that person know that it's two different schools of thoughts. And we just got to wake up. With that being said, we got about 11 minutes left.
Yeah.
And as
could you read? I know you said that, but can you? I don't think I need 11 minutes on my piece. Paradise Queen Bee. Can you put up Paradise?
Okay.
You want to read it?
I would like you guys to talk. You talk about this one right here? I would like for you guys to talk about the Me Too move. As a woman, and I say that because it's mainly women that come out with this, but to me, it needs to stop. Why speak about things that happen many, many years ago now wreck the lives of people now. I know PTSD happens, but after all these years, it bothers me. So let me try to dive deeper into this.
That's a good comment. That's a great comment.
It very
We don't have enough time to dive real deep into it.
what
But
okay, family. What we're gonna promise you is since we went there and I never want
I'm
well,
gonna copy that comment so I have
oh
it.
right. It is what it is. Next week we're gonna let's get into some raw conversation where we really try to put some things on the table because three things I see that people really don't want to talk about and they don't want to be truthful about it 9 out of 10 times when they talk about it is money, sex, and the church. And spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it. And I think we really need to get real with each other about all these things because it controls things that happen in our everyday lives. There are people, right now, there are people out there right now who have based some of the things they have done to us as people, as people of color, by a book of religion. I can treat them that way because the Bible says I can treat them that way. For years, I'm not trying to get ugly with folk. I'm just trying to get real with you. For years, we were kept in a certain mode, in a certain. Right now, we're fighting for voting rights because somewhere somebody said God says I can treat these people this way. They're not at the same. The God that created them ain't the God that created me.
Right. I just wanted to say this. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
So with that being said, we're going to definitely try to dive deeper into this because I see a lot of people are interested. I just wanted to kind of dabble in it. But
I can make a quick comment about the Me Too movement. Shout out to Tarana Burke, the sister who created the hashtag Me Too. It's a sister. And I think that Paradise makes a very interesting point. And a lot of us talked about this, but people say that exactly, Brother Fatin, stop letting others lead you. I am 100% agreeing with this. Appreciate that, Rhonda. But going back to Paradise comment about the Me Too movement, that the law is the law. I think that in the Bill Cosby situation, or going back, I agree. A lot of things that were done, but see, you got to realize, for us men to say this, we have to be very careful because a lot of this is done in a male chauvinist society, and from a male perspective, we're not women. And our body is not being disrespected like, some of the women, some men bodies are, and I understand that, but I'm talking about over the whole, a lot of women have been disrespected and continue to be disrespected on how they treated, how they touched, and this, that, and the other. And that's a no-no. And I think that, what the law says, going back at the individual, but you're right. If you go back at Brother Fatin at my stage of the game, and you go back into, man, I was 20 years old, and then that caused me to lose everything that I've gained now. I didn't rape a woman, but I touched her on her backside. That's wrong. That's wrong. But the question is, did I grow from this? Did I apologize for it? Even if I didn't apologize for it, do I lose everything that I get? That's a bigger conversation. And I think that for us to have that conversation, we need to have some women on to have this conversation.
Right, definitely.
To have this conversation, Paradise. But I think that it's interesting. Paradise makes this comment because it has destroyed a lot of people. But I look at the movie executive. He used his power to manipulate women. He deserved where he's at the end of the day. He deserves where he's at. The reason why I don't go at Bill Cosby so much, because Bill Cosby, they came up with an agreement. Both sides signed a deal. And then a person that was running as a prosecutor said, I will reopen this case. And when that prosecutor won, they went after Bill Cosby and allowed it. That's why Bill Cosby is out of jail, because they broke the law. There was a signed agreement. They was not supposed to go back and open that case.
Okay. So, family, we're going to definitely get into this conversation. We're probably going to wind up doing a 3 or 4 part series on this. to try to clear the air and get some people's opinions, and once again give the information that might bring about some healing to some folks. Because at the end of the day, I believe the reason we do what we do here is to give you the information to bring about change in your life, that you can reflect on yourself and maybe things that have happened, and you can come to closure. With that being said, James Mtume, um, man, brother Fatim, the floor is yours.
Well, so this Sunday afternoon, I found out that a good friend of mine, mentor, like a big brother, James Mtume, made his transition. And the first thing I want to say is, even though I know the family, I'm not a spokesperson for the family, and I say to, and I know some of the family members, and my condolences to the family, and I thank them for sharing their father, because they know that their father, their husband, their family member was a unique individual. He was a very unique individual. And I think the folks that know of him too may know, a lot of people know his history. Some know part of his history. Some don't know that he comes from a jazz family. His father is the late Jimmy Heath, the great legendary Jimmy Heath. A lot of folks don't know that Mtume played with Miles Davis, traveled the world with Miles Davis. He played with some of the greatest jazz, or met some of the greatest jazz. Some of the stories he's told from meeting Duke Ellington and playing with so many other great jazz legends. Then what did he do? He moved on from there and became a writer, producer for artists like Stephanie Mills, Phyllis Hyman, Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway, Mary J. Blige, Teddy Pendergrass, and the list goes on. Then from there, he created his own band, the Mtume. And of course, Juicy Fruit, You, Me, and He. The leads on that, Tawatha Agee, another tremendous talent out there. And Mtume then went on to be the music director of the television show New York Undercover. And it was his idea to bring on artists, different artists. You would see Aaliyah, you would see the OJs, you would see Mary J. Blige, you would see different artists in the scene towards the end at Natalie's on there. And at the same time, brother took on a position for 20 years as a talk show host. And I forgot to say that he was an activist before all of that. But when he took on the talk show position over at 98.7 Kiss FM in New York, and then we went over to WBLS 107.5 on the Open Line show, and he hosted that with Bob Slade, who was the news director and the creator of the show, and Judge Bob Pickett. That triangular situation, and Mtume's political savvy and knowledge was spectacular. Spectacular. This brother was, we call him the third answer, because as they say, there's the truth, then there's the other side, and then there's that answer in between. And Mtume always had that answer in between. You understand? And he had a lot of what we call Mtumeisms. He would come up with these sayings like left wing, right wing, it's all on the same bird. And it made sense that he would say that, the Democrats and the Republicans, he said, they all in the same car. You understand? He said the Republicans are in there robbing the bank, and guess what? The Democrats are driving a getaway car. So you see what I'm saying? And that's the kind of mind he had. But everything this brother touched, he did with excellence. And I'm just proud to say that I knew him. Everything that you see out on social media, I want to thank, when I say my boss, you have different levels of management, but I thank Mrs. Hughes, Kathy Hughes, because when I spoke with her, head of Radio One, Reach Media, and TV One, and I, passed on the message that Mtume had made his transition, and Mtume always highly talked about her. I said that they need to play his unsung piece again that was on TV One, and she texted me today. And I would say right now, I'll just say this, that she said to me, it will air tomorrow, Unsung, TV1. You could check your listings. But Wednesday at 8 p.m., TV1, Saturday, again at 11 a.m., and then on Clio Friday at 10 p.m. That's the power. BT. Social media shut down. People talking about Mtume through his music talent, how they were touched by him, and not only touched by his knowledge, his music, his sophistication. This brother helped people you would not know that he helped. He was blessed. He knew he was blessed. This brother helped break. When I told him I never been out this country, he said, Fatin, you've never been out this country? Next thing on, I'm on a plane, made a stop in Dubai, traveled in Dubai. Then we went on into Sudan, Khartoum, Sudan. Then we went to Darfur where they were warring to meet with leaders to try to see if we could stop. We met with then President Bashir. President Bashir. President Bashir would not meet with other media people. He met with us, sat with us. I sat next to him. And Brother Mtume facilitated that. I've seen Minister Farrakhan, who was very close. Mtume, they had a very close relationship. I just saw the admiration on Minister Farrakhan after Savior's Day in Chicago. When he saw Mtume, he said, Brother Mtume, he left with the person he was with to just go and embrace Brother Mtume. During the Million Man March, before the Million Man March, he consulted with Mtume because he said to Mtume, he said, there's a lot of people that are around me that will not give me the truthful answer because they probably want to give me the answer they think I want to hear. Brother Mtume, I know you'll give me the answer that comes from your heart. I went to the Million Man March. I didn't even have no money in my pocket, brother. This brother said, here, take X amount of dollars, get your family, and let's go. I dropped the missus off. She was pregnant with our second child. We had our little baby. I dropped off and I went to the Million Man March. I went to the Million Man March with Brother Mtume. When we walked up, the nation saw Mtume. Come this way, my brother. He had respect from the top down. So I want to lift this brother up and just say that he will be missed, but his legacy will live on. And he has very talented children, grandchildren, folks that will lead in their own footsteps, because Mtume taught people to be their own individual talent. But the jewels that we all learn, especially those that have been around him, his kids, his family, I truly believe his legacy will continue on.
May that brother rest in peace and the power. May we not forget the contribution of everything that he has brought, not only in your life, Brother Fatin, but those around him. Family, it was a great community conversation tonight. Listen, we're going to have the next 4 are going to be hot, deep, and with a lot of information.
And we're going to be a little, somebody going to be sorry next week. It may be me. It may be me, but it may be you. Or maybe both of us, or we may be happy. Let's see what team goes forward next week.
We're going to talk about sex, money, social media, OnlyFans.
Pepper, you want to talk about that?
We're going to talk about the stuff that most folks say, you know what? That's not what we need to be talking about. No, that's what we need to be talking about. Because sadly, there's a lot of closet freaks out there, a lot of undercover folks who smiling in your face every day, but they got some things in the back of their mind and some stuff going on that if you only knew, Lord have mercy. So, Brother Fatin, I know you got to get to the tangy tea of life.
Yes, sir.
And I got to get up out of here also. So listen, family, definitely check us out. You can go back and check out some of the old broadcasts at www.the100blk.com. We'll be back next Tuesday, tomorrow night. I'll be back up in here with Wellness Wednesday, because your mental health matters. Brother Fatin, close us out, brother.
Well, I just say, first of all, again, condolences and prayers to the family of James, the late James Mtume, and the friends. I just want to say to everybody out there, take one day at a time. Right now, take this coronavirus serious. This is nothing to play with. This is not just a mild version. We just broke. Last Monday we had 1 million people that test positive. Those are the people that just went and got tested. We just broke yesterday the record number of people that were hospitalized in one day. So folks, take this serious. This is nothing to play with out here. And I'm glad that we are not having the amount of deaths that we once had in the beginning of the pandemic. And you know why? Because we have better tools out here. We masking, we know how to deal with this. We have vaccinations out here. So we're in a better place. Vaccinations does not stop you from getting this COVID variant, but what it does, it keeps a lot of people from going to get really sick or be hospitalized. So take this serious. That's how I'm going to say it, folks. Be better than you was yesterday. Learn something today so you can say you wasn't dead today.
Amen. We're up out of here. Peace.